life barrier before you can damage the Hydra head. And you can't remove or steal or any of that stuff. And if you don't destroy the life barrier before it's depleted, you will then have the restored health to the HP of the head. But it will get stunned. So, good trade-off, I guess, if you don't kill it. It's Poison Cloud. Poison Cloud blocks damage from any hostile poisons. Okay. And any hit will count as a weak hit. HP burn cancels this debuff out, or cancels this buff out. And there's not many champions that don't land weak hits. I only think of one right now, and it's Gnarlhorn. Affinity and Affinity Artifact set, which kind of sucks. I mean, if you have a 100% chance of landing a weak hit, now it's a 35% chance of landing a critical. I guess it's better, but the way it is now, you have a 35% chance of landing a weak hit, and now you have a 35% chance of it being a critical. So you only have like a 10-15% chance of actually critting in that sense, but I guess it could be good, but 35% chance is still weak. And you can't remove, steal, or manipulate the buff, but you can use block buffs for both of these. Except for life barrier, because you'll see that in a little bit. Activates Head of Wrath, suffers 15 hits, 300% damage for 1 turn, triggers a AoE attack. Obviously, vengeance can't be removed or stolen or manipulated, but you can block it. So that's block buffs is going to be huge for this fight. Stone Skin. This is like the new protection, but the bombs. It's a bomb thing, so you reduce all incoming damage by 85%. Bombs do 300% more damage. Thus, you want to use bombs against Stone Skin. Can be reset by dealing damage equal to 50% of the damage. Okay. Activates when new Hydra head grows in place of decapitated head. And you do 75% more damage, or will decrease all incoming damage by 75%. Okay, so that's when the new head appears. It will be reduced damage on that head. For how many turns, I don't know. It doesn't say how many turns that activates, but that's this buff. Pain Link, I was wondering what the Pain Link, but it seems like it's a targeted reflect damage. That's what it is. The head will suffer the full amount of damage, but he picks a target to give 15% damage to. So he receives the full damage, and 15% of what the damage he received goes to a champion of his choosing of Pain Link. So, doesn't say it can't be removed or anything like that. I think you can remove it, maybe. Have to look at that. Petrification, a new debuff, which looks cool, but it's for bombs. Removes all debuffs, all buffs from the target champion, and blocks any other buffs. So it's a very strong block buffs basically, but only bombs work against it because you're reducing damage by 60%, unless it's a bomb. Then it'll do 300% more damage. So, and then we have the decapitated. Activates when the HP of one head is reached 0. The head is removed, turns to exposed neck. It cannot act for a set number of turns, and takes 200% more damage. That's a weird one because you do 200% more damage, but is it better to attack the other heads to kill one of the other heads to keep the head rotation going? Like, or do you just want to get as much damage as possible? that's going to be something to decide when you're fighting, because obviously some heads you want to get rid of as fast as possible, and some heads aren't really that dangerous for the most part. Mark of the Hydra is a special skill. Marks for devouring, so I guess it's going to be the one to devour next. And it's not really a debuff, it's just a mark. And then digesting, so you have so many turns to get him out of the belly. The head will, with this effect, receive additional HP and a time counter, and deal a set amount of damage. That counter runs out. Your champion returns to battle. If you fail, the champion's lost and cannot be revived. So that's nice. So the head of torment. This one I don't like, but it's a one. Okay, it attacks one enemy, 50% chance of blazing fear for 2 turns. This debuff cannot be blocked or resisted. After the first attack, attacks all enemies under fear and true fear. Okay. So I thought this was worse than it was, but it's a single target. I thought it was AoE, but it's a single target. 50% chance of blazing it, cannot be blocked or resisted. Can be removed. So you have your Inquisitor Shamel. You have your Sippy. She has a chance of removing fears also with her passive. So I mean, not a dangerous boss, but and obviously if you want to decapitation, it removes all fears and puts perfectly on 2 random enemies. The next one attacks all enemies, increases damage by 25% for each debuff an enemy is under. So I guess that's staggered. Like if one of your allies has 4 debuffs compared to another one that has 1 debuff, it's just going to do 100% damage to the one and 25% more damage to the other. But it seems like, because it says for each debuff an enemy is under, so it looks like it's a singular. Each one is individual. I don't think it's a collective of damage. Like the Griffin's a collective of damage. If for every buff removed, it does this much damage to the whole team. When attacked by enemies not under Veil, places a true fear. This is where it gets fun. This debuff cannot be blocked or resisted. So obviously you need Veil, or you need an Inquisitor Shamel to counter this boss. And then the poisons, all this stuff. The big thing to note is speed, decreased speed can be done to all these bosses. So I think it's going to be huge for this fight to slow them down. You can't reduce turn meter, you can't do HP balancing effects, cooldown increasing effects. But I think every single one of them has the 10% max HP hits. So, but and I want to know about this. Decreases the damage all Hydra heads take from AoE attacks. So is that like a stacks? So each head is doing 10%, so you do 10% of the damage and then 10% of the damage. So you keep reducing it by 10%. So it's not truly going to be a stack, but it's going to be more of a staggered reduction. But all the heads, I think, have some sort of 10%, 10%, 30% for which one is suffering, and then 10%, 10%. So they all have 10% reduction, so that's at least 40%. So it's 10, 10, 10, 10. So if me being a mathematician, can't really figure it out in my head, but it's like, you do 10% of that, 90%, 10%, 90% is 99, 10% of, so 19, 10% of the, oh gosh, 91, or 81, 8.1, so that's 19, 8.1, 8.1, and then you have 72 around there. 7.2, so that's 14, 20, 34, around 34%. Yeah, around 34%. So around 34% reduction without the 30% head. With 30% head, it might be a little more. That's AoEs, reducing 30% damage from AoEs. And with 30%, depends on where he puts in the lineup. So if he's first in the lineup, he's going to be doing it first. So he's reducing 30%, so he's down to 70%. Then you do 7, 6.3, and 5.7. So that's 12. It's about 50. Yeah, it's about 50% reduced AoE damage with him in the starting spot. Head of Suffering. Head of Suffering. If he's in the starting spot, you're reducing 70 or 50% of damage AoEs. Okay, so that's a lot. Does it balance it out? I don't know. I don't know. I feel like single target might be the way to go here for most of the fight. You might have one big AoE nuker, but I think most of the damage seems like it's coming from War Master, HP burns, poisons, those kinds of things, like a normal clan boss. But everything's capped, and you're reducing a lot of damage from poisons. I want to know about the speeds, resistance, accuracy, defense of these bosses, because all that plays a role. Like, and especially because War Master's capped at 50,000 per attack. So, would Savage and Helm Smasher be optimal? Probably not. Clan Boss has low defense, so maybe this has high defense. Questions to be asked. Attacks. So this is the Head of Decay. Attacks all enemies attacks the enemy with the lowest HP. Places 100% heal reduction for 2 turns. Can be resisted, can be blocked. Very nice, very easy. This is where he gets annoying. Removes all debuffs from all heads, then fills turn meter of all heads by 30%. 4 turn cooldown. But it's all debuffs. It all depends on where he goes in the rotation. And what speeds, like, is he the fastest? Is he the slowest? Are they all the same speed? It goes about, so it's going to go by turn order. I mean, it felt like in the video, it was staggered. They weren't all going in order, it was just staggered. So they might be different speeds, which would be nice. But we'll see. But that's going to be an annoying ability, because you're going to try to put your debuffs out, and you're going to be like, well, I have to wait till this turn, but does he use it, or is he going to use this? Like, which one he's going to use, which one he's going to prioritize? All questions. This one removes all debuffs from the head with the lowest HP, then places Life Barrier. So Life Barrier can't be removed or stolen. Can't be blocked because you're going to remove all the debuffs. So you're pretty much stuck with getting this on one of the heads, the lowest health head, every 5 turns. And then the question for this is, does he does this one first? Is this one the most important one to do? And then he does this one? So then this one is effectively 5 turn cooldown, because he's going to do this one first, and then he's going to do that one, and then so it's a 5 turn cooldown on both of them, which makes it better, because 4 turn cooldown on remove all buffs, that's rough. Doable but rough. 5 turn cooldown, much better. And then the heal reduction, don't care for that. Decapitation heals all allies, heals all enemy champions by 30%, and then restores 50% of the max HP of any enemy's champions whose max HP was decreased. This is where it gets fun. Whenever an enemy champion is healed, decreases their max HP by 15% of the heal. Oh god, that's up to 75%. This looks like the head to kill first. every single time. That is the most annoying ability there is. Because you know how much healing is going to go on in this fight? There's no way you're not going to heal. Like, you're going to have to kill this head fast. This is not a head you want to keep around. Obviously, it depends on how much damage you're taking. But no matter what damage you're taking, you're still going to be healing. So any damage you heal. So any damage you lose, you're going to be healing back. So that's 15% of that damage you basically were inflicted with. You're going to heal back, and you're going to lose that 15% of that heal. I don't know, it seems rough. Whenever an enemy. So is that also has a question, is that health restored? So if it's like a 60,000 heal, it's only going to be the health restored on the champion. It's not going to be 15% of 60,000, right? That's a question. So yeah, that definitely makes this head annoying because there's no way to bypass it. There's no like, oh, if you have increased defense or strength enough, doesn't affect you. No, it's whatever. It's any heal. So you're definitely gonna have to take this head out first. I don't see a way around this. This head is the most annoying head of all of them. I don't like it. That's how long these fights going on. That mean, and you're restoring 50% of the max HP of any champion whose max HP has been decreased. So you're only getting half of it back when you kill this head. That's rough. So you're going to be taking. Oh my gosh. So yeah, kill this head first. That's all I have to say. Alright, this one. Head of Blight. Attacks all enemies. Places 3 5% poisons debuffs for 2 turns. Also has a 10% chance of placing Leech debuff. Inflicts damage to all heads under HP burn whenever this head is decapitated. That's cool. Attacks all enemies, places a 5% poison debuff for 3 turns, instantly deals damage from all poison debuffs for each enemy under Leech debuff. So obviously Leech is the one thing you want to get rid of as soon as possible. You want to get rid of the poisons too, but Leech, if you can block it, you can block it. Get rid of it, keep it off you, because that will probably hurt a lot. And in this fight, you probably don't want to take that much damage. So then this is places a poison cloud buff on all Hydra heads for 2 turns. This buff cannot be removed or transferred. You can block it, so block buffs is huge. And HP burn negates it. So there's two ways of counteracting the poison cloud. But also remember, you have this stupid head that removes all debuffs, so you gotta have a way to keep something up. So you probably can't keep block buffs up the whole fight. But if you can keep you can keep HP burn up as long as possible, as much as possible. That is probably the best way of counteracting the poison cloud. And same spiel. This head receives double damage from HP burn. So HP burn is the way to kill this head. Head of Suffering. Attacks all enemies. Places a weakened debuff for 2 turns. This buff cannot be resisted. Can be blocked. Yay. Will not place weakened debuff on enemies with strengthen buffs. You can block it. You can use strengthen. One of the two. Ursula. Shout out. She has a defense up and a strengthen on her A3. So you don't need that block buffs. Or block debuffs. And she has an AoE decrease attack, which is great. So that's shout out to Ursula. I love her. Okay, so places a 50% ally protection buff on all heads except this one. for 2 turns. Then places a 30% reflect damage on this head for 2 turns. Also places a provoke for 1 turn on the enemy with the highest crit damage. So, you can negate that with block debuffs, or you can just cleanse it, one of the two. But you can negate both these by having block buffs out. You can remove these, so if you want to remove them, you can remove them. There's ways around this. This head's not that scary, because you have ways to negate these things. A lot of ways to negate these things. So, a ping link debuff for 3 turns, then grants this head an extra turn. The 3-turn cooldown. So ping link's going to go out a lot. So you want probably a way to cleanse, probably a way to do block debuffs to keep this from. You probably want both of those, cleanse and a block debuffs, to keep rotating for you can keep cleansing and blocking stuff. There'll be a lot of debuffs, a lot of buffs. Try to keep a way to figure out how to keep buffs off them, keep debuffs off you. That's the 2 main goals out of this whole thing, it looks like. And it attacks 1 enemy, so that damage wise, I don't know how much damage it does. Maybe it does a lot, maybe it does a little. Increase the resist of all Hydra heads by 50. Alright, that's pretty big. This is the suffering ones. This was 30% AoE. So he's increasing resist and reducing AoE damage. So he's increasing resist. It all depends on what the resist is. Like if the resist is 300 and you're increasing by 50, you can probably get away around that still. I mean, if their resist is, let's say, what I don't know what clan boss is, 200, 190, somewhere in there, and you add 50 to that, you're 300, which is like you're doing 300, 325. Not bad. I think that's way doable. I think you're running into this fight with at least 300 accuracy anyway. It's just naturally, if building characters, you get accuracy on them. Well, let's just say for endgame. So that's that head. Not that scary. Not that scary. Head of Mischief. Attacks the enemy with the most buffs. Steals all buffs from the target and steals 50% of the turn meter. So this is the guy I was thinking Duchess would be perfect for. Because Duchess would veil everyone. Everyone would be hidden. You would have to attack her. You'd have a high resist Duchess, and boom. He's not going to do anything. And then he does a buff spread from the buffs he steals. Changes the duration of all spread buffs to 2 turns. So he's not going to steal anything, he's not going to spread anything, so he could get lucky and steal something, but not a scary head if you can force him to attack a certain person. Now if you can't, and you're stuck with him stealing buffs, you can always make your buffer the highest resist person, because then they usually would have the most buffs in the end, because they place them so they have an extra turn over everyone else. They usually would have the most buffs, so you just make them the highest resist, and then they get targeted and nothing really happens. But again, block buffs fixes this problem. He can steal turn meter, but if you put block buffs on him, he ain't gonna get those buffs. He won't be spreading buffs. So that's just me. Has a 75% chance of redirecting an enemy attack onto another random head. Will not occur if this head is under hex. Personally, yeah, I don't think you need hex. If that's all it does, eh. Now, if you bring Raoul and his passive reduces speed and reduces resistance, and increases damage dealt and reduces damage taken from, or reduces the heals. Maybe Raul would be pretty cool because his passive actually would help you in this fight. But this being the only thing Hex does, pretty weak. Because, like, do I want to kill this guy? Am I sitting here going like, oh, I need to kill this guy? He's too powerful. I mean, I don't think so. You can negate him with resistance, and you can negate him with block buffs. Obviously, you know, other things coming through, but I think you're still targeting decay first. Head of Wrath. Attacks all enemies. Places a 50% decreased attack buff on Teutons to everyone. Can be resisted, can be blocked. All good. Alright, passive effect. Each hit received increases vengeance by a counter by 1. Whenever the vengeance counter reaches 15, places a vengeance buff, a block debuffs, and a 50% reflect on this head for 1 turn. Then attacks all enemies. Just want to say, block buffs can counter all those nasty little things because vengeance does 300% more damage. So block buffs pretty much negates his insane hit, but he will still hit, and then he resets the counter. Each hit, enemies hits will not, okay, while it's under vengeance. So basically counterattacks. Basically what that's saying, because he gets it for 1 turn, and he attacks everyone. I don't know if that is that like a counterattack? So he gets it, counterattacks, or he gets it and then attacks, and then everyone counters him, and then he gets reset to 0. Don't know. Isn't really specific about that, but we'll see. Doesn't seem that scary if you can get block buffs on him. But this one attacks all enemies, places a provoke debuff for 1 turn. Also places a 50% increased attack buff on this head for 3 turns on 4 turn cooldown. So block debuffs is going to be pretty big. Block buffs again, keeping that increased attack off him. So, oh, here's a new one. Poison. He's immune to poison. Yeah. Anyone else immune to poison? This one's immune. Head of Mischief is immune to poison. Okay. Here's Head of Suffering's not immune to poison. Head of Blight is immune to poison. Stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, block active skills, block passive skills, fear, true fear, poison, petrification. It's all the normal ones. It's just poison. So only 3 heads: torment, decay, and suffering will take poison damage. The other 3, wrath, mischief, and blight, do not take poison damage. That's interesting. So if you're going against the poison cloud, really doesn't do much for those heads because they're already immune to poison. Interesting. Well, that changes how you want to fight this, because I thought poison was going to be big, but there's 3 heads that are immune to it. So now you have to, well, HP burn's still going to be a thing because it still works. I didn't notice that before, but that's good. I like that. I like that. And HP burn only does 20% damage, 20% damage, 20,000 health. So that might be not a lot. Oh, he receives double damage. elbow damage from HP burn is 40,000 on max. I don't think, yeah, I don't think it doubles it from there. I think that is double. Alright, so that's the. So we're still on the Head of Decay, is the most annoying. Kill first.